Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Cincinnati Zoo Tales. Unfortunately, Jenna is not with us today, so all you listeners at home, you're stuck with me this entire podcast. Hopefully we can get through it together. I feel a little bit like a kid whose parents are out of town. I'm trying not to burn the house down today. Hopefully this episode goes well.
This could be historic.
That's right. We'll see how this goes, and we'll see what turn this podcast takes. But we've got a fun, exciting topic today, and we're joined by a group of people. I love these kind of larger group episodes. These are always my favorite.
Nice.
We're here today to talk about the Zoo Academy. We've got some experts with me to talk to us about what a unique institution this is here at the Cincinnati Zoo. It's a lot of fun. So today we're being joined by Paul Reinhart, who's a graduate of the Zoo Academy, and he's a senior keeper now currently in our children's zoo exhibit. Also being joined by Dan Marsh, who's the director of education. He kind of oversees everything at the Zoo Academy currently. And then Maurice prefers to go by Reese Lattimore. Reese graduated last year, 2024, so a very recent graduate, and he's currently an AmeriCorps education member here at the zoo.
Oh, nice.
So we've got a nice diverse background of everyone here. If you guys don't mind, I kind of want to take a little bit of time to hear a little bit about yourselves, what got you interested in wildlife, maybe what brought you to where you are today here at the zoo. And as you're going through that, if you don't mind touching a little bit about your background with Zoo Academy and what capacity the Zoo Academy has had on your life. So Paul, you want to start chatting with us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm not sure where to start. It's a memorable day for me. I asked my mom to bring me to the zoo. I was young, probably a freshman or a sophomore in high school. We took the bus from Mount Washington, walked around the zoo for part of the day, but there was a poster in the zoo window up where Treetops is now. And I looked at it, and it was about, then it was called Natural Resources Management. And
NERMS.
And
so it
I
wasn't
applied.
called Zoo Academy at the time?
No.
Okay, I didn't realize that. Gotcha.
Natural NRM, Natural Resources Management. And I begged and pleaded, got the information. My parents said, we can't drive you, so you're going to be taking the bus every day. And I said, that's okay, I'll do whatever I have to do. And truly, when I got here, I guess it was 1979, junior in high school, new place, right away I just felt at home. The first week of school, we dissected and took apart an ostrich that had passed away here at the zoo.
Wow.
So we jumped right into it. Our teacher was Dick Mills, who was a keeper. He used to be a keeper in the nocturnal house. He started teaching. That was his first year. And then now he's works with travel company somewhere.
Yeah, he founded that company, I think, didn't he?
Yeah, he probably did. He grew up in Africa, so he had all these great stories.
Wow.
Yeah, he was an amazing teacher. I heard from all
He
the
did really well.
kids.
And I felt really good. Graduated in 1981, and there was an opening in the Velt, what we now call the ungulate department. And they hired me on. I worked my senior year, all my time worked in the Velt because the supervisor went out of the country. He traveled a lot, so I spent all my labs in the Velt working with Tom Tenefeld and Mike Land. And Tom left and joined the Navy, and they hired me in.
Wow.
That was a long interview.
Sorry, did I go too long?
No, a long interview for your, you were in there for a year or a semester, like in the Veld. That was a long time for them to get to know you.
Yeah.
And
They
still
needed
hired
the
you.
help. It was a time of utilizing the help that you had, and they were a person down, so they had me doing the upstairs. I did the upstairs. Zebra, ostrich. One of the zebras was pretty flighty, and I was just standing around utilizing time, and she came up, and I hand fed her a carrot. Now, I didn't know I was being watched, but one of the guys was watching me, and they said, we've never been able to get a zebra to eat out of our hands.
Wow.
And she did, and they liked me, and it was a learning curve. Believe me, it's a lot of work. But I was a youngster, 17, 18 years old, and I was at home. I learned so much.
That's awesome. You were able to jump straight from the Zoo Academy, use that experience right into a job. So what year did you get hired full-time at the zoo?
1981, July, the end of July, right before my birthday of 1981. I graduated in May, bummed around a little bit. I had a job somewhere else, and then when Tom left, they asked me if I wanted the job, and I said yes. They knew I wanted the job, I should say.
And then you've had a myriad of other experiences throughout your time at the zoo. Anything stand out in particular?
Yeah, a lot. It began my affinity for rhinos in particular. We had Ralph and Princess down in the Veldt. Elephant House had Johnny and Ruby, and literally it was kind of a race, although we didn't overbreed them. It was a natural progression that we had calves about every 3 years, black rhino calves, and I remember them being moved out of the zoo, and Sumatran rhino was probably the pinnacle of it, that I was able to be so involved with the Sumatran rhino thanks to Dr. Terry Roth. There's lots more other things. I grew up here. I've spent more time here at the zoo probably than outside the zoo at this point. So it feels good. I'm at home here, and I love it here.
That's special. The zoo needs people like you around, so that's pretty special.
Watch out, parents. This is what can happen to your kids. Which is great.
Oh, I love it.
Which is great.
All good. I mean, I can keep going. I didn't meet my wife. I knew her beforehand, but we went to school together and started dating about 3 years later, and got married in 1987. 43 years.
That's special.
No, 37. I've been here 43. I'm working into my 44th year, only to be outdone by Mike Land. I'm pointing at the microphone now.
Mike, if you're listening, Mike.
Land. He was in the first graduating class, but he's not here today, so they asked me to do this.
Well,
that's awesome.
Yeah, I think that's great.
That's special. Dan, what about yourself? What's your kind of background here at the zoo, and then what's gotten you involved with Zoo Academy?
Oh, good Lord. So I started here at the zoo as an intern in 1989. And I was an intern with the Bird Show, or the Wings of Wonder Bird Program, what we call it today. And that's because I was a falconer. I had a falconry license, and then I had a degree in biology. It was sort of between a couple of years in school. And so Gary Densler, I think I put in my letter that I frequently drive off the side of the road trying to get a better look at a hawk. And when he saw that I had a falconry license, and I said that in the letter, because it was a letter that I typed on a typewriter, because this was like, I don't know when that was. It was 1988 probably when I did this and sent it in. And so I came in that year, had a fantastic year, or a summer working with Gary in the program, and just really loved it. And then I went back to school. And I went back to school and finished my degree, spent a year abroad in Japan on an exchange, came back and was doing fisheries work with the Department of Natural Resources. And out of the blue one day, and this doesn't happen, this does not happen anymore, I got a call from Gary out of the blue, and he said, "Dan, do you want to work at the zoo?"
No way.
And it wasn't like, "Dan, do you want to interview for this job?" It was like, "Do you want to work for the zoo?" And I was like, "Yes."
Just offered the position on the spot. That's crazy.
On the spot. I mean, it does not happen this way anymore. Yes, and it's funny because I'd had an experience with my boss in the fisheries section that wasn't great, like 2 weeks before, and I was kind of thinking that wasn't the best fit for me. Even though I had a keen interest in wildlife, it just wasn't the right fit, that career. And so the funny thing is that Dave Janicki, who's the COO today, and at the time was the Assistant Director of Education, because at that time the Wings of Wonder Bird program, the Cat Ambassador program were all part of the education department.
Okay.
So it was all organized under education. And Dave Janicki calls me and says, I know Gary offered you the job, Dan, but could you come in for an interview anyway? And I was like, do I still have the job? And he goes, yes, you still have the job.
That sounds like Dave.
Yeah. And so so the rest is history. I've been at the zoo in a variety of different roles, always in the education department, and moved up through the department. Today I'm the director, which is a real honor to be able to be in that position. So many great people came before me, and it's just a real honor. And my connection with the Zoo Academy is that I'm the liaison between Cincinnati Public Schools and the zoo. So, like, if there's ever things to discuss, plans to be made, conflicts to resolve, whatever, I get involved at that point. And what I love about it is that I love stories like Paul's. And when you guys meet Reese in a second, I love his stories as well. That these young people come to the zoo, and very much like me, but in a different setting, my life was changed. I've been at the zoo ever since. So 32 years later, I'm still here. I started full time in 1992.
Yeah, this place has a way of keeping people around, you know?
Yeah, your identity gets tied to this place, and the zoo world gets its hooks in you. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to extract. You know, I can't really imagine doing anything else, to be honest with you. Yeah, thanks for asking.
Yeah, absolutely. I love hearing that.
We don't get chances to share this kind of stuff very often.
And how long have you been director of education now?
18 years.
18 years, okay.
Yeah.
So that's quite a long time with background in the Zoo Academy in particular, because that's been part of your role.
Yep,
yeah.
I've seen it all.
Yeah.
That's my whole entire lifespan. My whole entire lifespan right there.
Wow.
Reese is making us all feel old here.
Thanks, Reese. That was perfect.
That's incredible.
If I wasn't feeling old before.
Now we do. Oh, that's a perfect time to bring Reese in. So, Reese, you're our most recent Zoo Academy graduate we've got with us. Would you tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of your experience at Zoo Academy?
Yeah, for sure. So I've always been interested in animals, right? And I actually grew up off of Forest, like a street right over. It's called Purdue. You probably drive past it every day, right? And
It's just a couple blocks away. Yeah.
Right there, right?
Around the corner.
And every night I would hear maybe the orangutan or the peacock, something always cooing at nighttime, and it just piqued my interest. But I never got to actually come to the zoo on my own time. I came on a couple of field trips, but I never came alive. But ended up going to Houston High School. Kind of went there for a while. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. You have to choose a pathway. And I wasn't too excited to be here, right? And I came, and it absolutely changed my life, you know. It all started with the snake. I got to hold a snake, and I was terrified.
That could go either way for some people, right? You know, it all started with a snake.
It's a big experience.
All started with the snake, and I was terrified. And held the snake. Her name's Q-Ball, by the way, and I held her.
And ball python.
Ball python.
Yeah.
We just built this bond that was so strong, and it just made me absolutely fall in love with animals. And also, I knew I wanted to be a teacher, but I didn't know I could be a teacher in an informal setting. And this just kind of gave me that perspective, you know. It changed my perspective. I got to see some different things, and it absolutely changed me. In every lab, something new. I learned something new, got a new experience. And I got some job opportunities, and I remember fourth quarter of my junior year, Dan Marsh came down. He was like, there's a job opportunity. Would anybody like it? And I applied and got the job, and the rest is history. I've been here as a summer camp instructor and an overnight instructor, and now I'm serving with AmeriCorps. So, yeah.
That's amazing. So you might be the best, since you most recently went through the program, you might be the best person to kind of tell us. I want you to kind of tell listeners about, like, what does the day-to-day life of a zoo student look like? Like, what does that look like attending Zoo Academy?
Okay, yeah. It's basically coming here every day. It's like school, you know, there's a school downstairs in the bottom education part of the building. You come in at 8 o'clock in the morning, you leave at 3. But we have our regular classes. We have English, math, you know, the regular class that you need to graduate. Then you have a couple of zoo tailor classes like zoo and aquarium and plant and horticulture, which was eye-opening for me as well. I didn't know anything about plants, and now I'm a nerd.
You became a bit of a plant guy, too,
Yeah,
didn't
I'm
you?
a nerd now.
And our horticulture team. The best.
Shout out
the
to
best.
them.
Yeah.
Amazing so much. But yeah, you know, eat lunch here. Sometimes you can go out, eat lunch in the zoo at base camp or whatever. But you're always here, and I think that shapes your idea and identity around the zoo. You know, you're always here, always meeting new people, always talking to people, and it's very welcoming.
So how often are you doing the labs on like a day-to-day basis?
So you do labs 2 days a week for 4
Okay.
hours a day. So for juniors, I think that's Tuesday and Thursday. And then for seniors, that's Wednesday and Friday for the first 4 hours every day.
That's exciting. I feel like, obviously, we're all animal nerds here, right? I feel like I would just be dying for those lab days. Like, get the classwork out of the way. I need to go to lab and see these animals. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll be late to school sometimes, but never to lab.
Yeah.
Never to lab.
It's funny. There's no other high school like it, really, in the country. There's a lot that mimic it, and there's similar programs, but nothing like this program. Sorry, didn't mean to
No,
interrupt
you're
you.
fine.
Reese.
You're
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Zoo Academy was great. I feel like with Zoo Academy, we're just one big family. You know, we have that small class of at maximum 30 people, and you're with each other every single day, and it builds this camaraderie. At least for my class, at least we were like family, and that's really important to me.
That's special, for sure. Paul, do you feel the same way? Going back to, class of 1981, do you still
Yes.
keep up with some of those people?
Yeah, well, yeah, they come to the zoo now. I've reconnected with one person that went to school with. Just out of the blue, they were asking around and found out I was still here. And I keep up with a few of them. A married classmate, like I said, and it really does. It makes you appreciate the small class size and getting to know people, not just passing in the hall, but what makes them tick and their problem areas or things they're concerned with and things that they really thrive on. You really do make a connection.
That's special. Dan, would you tell us a little bit about, like, who can come attend Zoo Academy? Like, who is this open for? Can I just come across from New York City and come down to Zoo Academy? Like, what's that look like?
Okay, so in the past, it's interesting. Over 50 years, the program's changed dramatically, and so in the past, the farthest I'm aware of a student coming to the Zoo Academy was from Romania.
Wow.
A young man, Daniel. I forgot Daniel's last name. It's escaping me right now, but Daniel came from Romania, and
Specifically for the program.
Yes.
Like, that's incredible.
yes, and that's unusual, right? Almost all of our students come from the region, and currently, all of the students come from CPS. So, and that's kind of exciting because there's a change afoot right now. So, traditionally, all the students had to come from Hughes. As some of them could apply to come in from other parts of the state. It was tuition free from anyone in the state. And every now and then you'd have 8 to 9 students come in from high schools outside of Hughes. But this year we're about to launch a program where anyone in a high school in CPS, in Cincinnati Public Schools, can apply or show interest in coming to the Zoo Academy. So 10 out of the 25 kids in every class can be from another high school. And the cool part is that when they graduate with a diploma from the high school they came from.
Oh, nice.
And the funding, this is important to the school, the funding for the school actually stays in the high school that they came from for that student. And I'm not sure how they worked all that out. I think it's just such a low number of kids that it doesn't really matter that much. But what it's going to do is open the opportunities to other kids that are interested in this program. Because Paul, when you came, did you have to go to Hughes?
I think it was Taft.
Yeah,
for some
Taft.
reason. It was
Yeah.
Taft, and
Yeah.
you had to transfer to Taft. I didn't have to go into Taft because
Yep.
it was all here.
Right.
But yes, you had to transfer out, and I remember asking a counselor about it. I went to McNicholas High School, asking them, and they downplayed it like, "Oh, you don't want to go there." I didn't realize it at the time, but they were going to be losing tuition
Right, the funding.
for for one person. I didn't realize it then, and but I worked through it, and yeah, you transferred to Taft High School, and then came to here.
Yeah.
Zoo.
Yeah, it opens the door to a lot of other kids in the city, and the thing that's really important about this program is that it creates opportunities for young people like us, in the sense that we're really interested in wildlife. Now, in your case, Reese, you became really interested in wildlife, and you weren't so sure about it to start with. But now I think we're going to be in a situation, and it's currently a lot of kids that come here are interested in wildlife, but there's going to be an opportunity for 10 other kids from someplace in CPS to be part of something really special and change their life. And the other thing that's important to me, and as well to the teachers and the administration at Hughes, is that this is for everybody. Like, you don't have to be the best student. You just have to be enthusiastic about what you're doing here. That's what matters. And because this is a phenomenon that I've seen happen. It happened with you, Paul, and I've seen it with a whole bunch of other kids. They come to the Zoo Academy. There's 25 kids per class. It's a small school embedded in the zoo. And sometimes these kids go from being a student that's maybe average to above average because they're in this place that just feeds their interest. And that's life-changing. And we've restructured the lab so that they're 4 hours long now, and you can form really strong relationships with people in the zoo, in those labs. And if you're, in some cases, some students will stay in those labs for a good part of the year. They'll repeat the lab if that's allowed, you know. It's usually a conversation with the area. And that just forms that relationship, because I think all young people need relationships with people outside of their family and their usual circles, and that just builds something there. Like when I came down and talked to you guys about the job opportunity, AmeriCorps and all that.
Yeah, that's really special that it's being opened up to, you know, all of CPS. That offers such a cool potential for any student in the area.
Yeah, the downside is that we won't be pulling from all over Ohio, or even school districts outside of CPS. It's going to be focused on CPS, but that makes sense. We're a Cincinnati, Hamilton County institution, right? And so we're keeping it here for our kids.
Do you guys anticipate like enrollment, or not necessarily enrollment, but like applications to kind of go through the roof? Like, have you seen that yet?
No, this is all hot off the press.
Okay,
we don't even
gotcha.
have a website set up, and because of the funding,
You're getting your exclusive here on
this
Zoo
is
Tales.
this is the big debut. So hopefully by the time this thing is out there, we'll have the website set up, and there's a Google form that you can populate with your interest, and it's going to be an interest form. Now, the thing that's I'm not the most excited about it, but I understand why it's happening this way, is that it's going to be a randomized selection. There's no interview, but you have to be at least eligible to be a junior to enter the program. So you have to have all your class credits to be in. So that's going to select for kids that are interested, that really want to do this, because they've demonstrated that they're serious about school at that point. So it's the funding model, the career tech funding that comes into the program that won't allow us to interview or have an exclusive process that is too heavy on selection, and that might also keep us from getting young people that are, we're like me, frankly. I was not the most stellar student in school, but I was pretty excited about some things, and one of those things was anything to do with a living world. I was motivated. Other things, not so much. That thing, I was motivated. And I wish there was a program like this where I grew up.
Yeah, that randomization, that seems like it makes it fair, though, across the board.
It's fair, and it's only 10 spots.
Yeah.
I mean, that's hard,
Definitely.
It's really hard.
Definitely. Yeah. So, Reese, what was the experience like for you to kind of enter the program? Like, you said you came from Hughes, and you didn't start until your junior year, correct?
Yeah. So, all throughout your Hughes career, you have 4 pathways, because Hughes is a STEM school. You have 4 pathways to choose from. It's IT, health, engineering, and zoology. And they kind of just pushed us. They were like, you got to choose one for your junior year, right? And I just happened to choose Zoo Academy. And from my knowledge, with my year, you also had to be junior ready. Like, you had to be, have all your credits to come here. And I chose Zoo Academy, and I came.
Never looked back since, right?
That's awesome.
For people who do stay around, you hear that a lot, that I started here and they can't get rid of me, or I've been here ever since. Zoo is an attracting place, and it really is home for some people.
So, Paul and Reese, as 2 people who attended the program, did you guys have a particularly favorite lab, or like a special memory that you remember?
Watch what you say.
I'm making you pick favorites here.
You're gonna get in trouble.
You're gonna see me walking down Bear Hill and just a whole bunch of people, employees trying to get me.
Right behind him, right?
Paul, did you want to go first?
You go ahead.
Alrighty.
Oh, he's putting you on the spot.
Alrighty. Do I have to choose just one?
No, you can choose. I just wanted to hear about some of your experiences.
For sure. Definitely education. I mean,
Education, of course. Education.
Well played.
Come first,
Well
right?
With the director of education
With the
present, it's
director
definitely
of
education.
Shameless. That was shameless.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Loved education. It was my first lab. I didn't know what to expect, but I actually got to work with the AmeriCorps members. It's kind of full circle now because now I'm teaching Zoo Academy kids, right? And they were just so enthusiastic, filled with so much passion and enthusiasm and love. So AmeriCorps or Education Lab was the best. Not the best. I'm not choosing favorites. I'm not choosing favorites. And then horticulture was my second lab, and the hort team is just absolutely amazing. There's something peaceful about getting your hands dirty and planting something, and then watching a couple months down the line and just have all these annuals or tulips just looking beautiful. Feel like a proud plant dad.
Definitely.
A proud plant.
I love that.
I love it too.
And then for third one, I'll choose 3. And Jungle Trails don't kill me, but it's definitely Cat Ambassadors. I absolutely love Cat Ambassadors. That was my second quarter lab for senior year, and my fourth quarter I actually went back to do another one.
It was so good you had to go back to it, huh? That's awesome.
Absolutely love that team. The work was just peaceful. It's something about being so close to a cheetah, serval, or ocelot, cats, dogs, cheetah companion dogs. It was just amazing, and that team is genuinely amazing.
Yeah, they've got a great team up there. I love that you said horticulture though, because I think horticulture in our zoo, it's something that doesn't always get called. Obviously, the animals get a lot of attention, right? Horticulture doesn't always get the most attention, but they deserve it because the team's incredible. Like there is something special about planting something with your hands, getting your hands in the soil. I love that.
Me too. I think it's what sets our zoo apart from a lot of other zoos. Is the amount of attention to detail when it comes to the plants. There's a lot of thought that goes into what plants go where. And how many plants, and planting in the theater to control the sight lines in the zoo. All that stuff is so remarkable. All zoos have animals, right? Duh. But it's that side of it that just takes it one step further, and you create this, the habitat, if you will.
Hardest way in Botanical Garden.
That's right. That's right. Can't forget the botanical garden on it.
I think it's the Botanical Garden and Zoo.
There you go. I think we had Steve Foltz on the episode.
You'll be like, yeah, go
Come
Dan.
on, and he was rooting for the same thing. He wants to rename it Cincinnati Botanical Garden and Zoo. Paul, what about you? Do you have a particular lab or experience that you hold close?
Obviously, when I was a senior, I worked the better part of my whole year in the veld, so I became...
That's a hard time, too. That's a physical job.
It is kind of a story I like to tell behind that, too. But yeah, I worked... Junior, I worked in birdhouse, I remember, and children's zoo, and horticulture, too. Garden crew. It was called garden crew back then. It wasn't even horticulture. Worked with Gary Densler, had a couple of very memorable days working with Gary. He's a favorite person of mine from around here.
Mine too.
He's a legend, yeah. He's a legend.
For sure.
He is a legend, that's for sure. So senior year, I worked in the veld. So I like reptiles, snakes, amphibians, and if I didn't get a job here, I was applying to zoos out around the country. And Seattle, can't remember the exact name of the zoo. Somebody help me.
Woodland Park?
Woodland Park was just forming or just hiring, and I got down to maybe close in my mind them granting me an interview, but I was young, in high school still, and they passed on me for that, and then the position came open here in the veld, and I've been a hoofstock guy ever since. I still have my love for reptiles, walking the creek and walking the field. There's not as many left as there was when I was a youngster growing up, but I still really enjoy getting out there and being in nature, looking for snakes and birds. I'm not as much of a bird. The bigger the bird, the better. Ostrich,
Me too.
Eagles, all that. The teeny tiny little Tweety birds.
Not so much.
I tend to miss. But I'm getting better. And I love horticulture too. I've grown into a plant geek, and I don't know all the names, but horticulture, like you said, is a driving force around here. They're incredible. They keep the paths clear during the winter. They take on these huge projects like Elephant Trek down here. They were working, and I would, being the zoo nerd that I am, I'd walk through there as they got started because it used to be just a parking lot. And horticulture works hard every single day they're here, and I have some very good alliances and friends in the horticulture department. I do anything for. Steve especially. He started here when his first project was the Red Panda exhibit. I think he was an intern still, or maybe a seasonal.
Steve Foltz?
Steve Foltz.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was his first project to design and name the plants and all that.
Wow.
And so I've been taking care of that exhibit for 30 years or more.
And we were just talking about how beautiful it is.
Yeah.
Still,
Yeah.
to this day.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
There was a lot more in there. The pandas have
Weeded it out.
selected the plants that they want to stay. But yeah, going back again, I love the reptiles, working with the reptiles and amphibians, but that hard work, that being close to animals, that's what it was too. So when I started here, and not as much to the date now, but we went in with everything. You went in and cleaned the big veldt yard with ostrich and eland and zebras and the old deer line. You went in with camels and bison and everything, and that's what I like. When it comes right down to it, being in the same space and grabbing a hold of a big Bactrian camel all in the dead of winter, and they're perfectly comfortable, and I like the winter. Those are the things that made me love it here, and still really, really love it to this day.
Yeah.
The hands-on working with animals.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. So did you always want to do hoofstock, or is that something you kind of discovered through your time at Zoo Academy? Because it's funny that you say you're so interested in reptiles. I knew you were interested in reptiles, but I can't picture you as a reptile keeper. You've just always been a hoofstock keeper to me. You know?
I continued it at home. I kept a lot of stuff at
Really?
home. I don't anymore.
Okay. Neat.
Like I said, I wanted to be a reptile keeper, but this kind of fell in, and they liked the work I did for whatever reason. They were kind of meticulous. The supervisor there, the head keeper, things had to be done a certain way, and I guess I did them right. So it just, they're more of a hands-on type thing. Camels and eland and rhinos, when they come up and they're drooling and they push their head into
That's a good
you.
thing?
Yeah, oh, it is a good thing. Yeah, and you're feeding these animals, and it's quiet in the building. We hear this crunch, crunch, crunch of a lot of the videos out there now. They focus on what it sounds like when animals are eating. And red pandas, I do it every day for 30 years, but watching red pandas eat that bamboo is just, I could stand there still all day and watch them eat.
That's awesome.
That's
You
really
got some great lab experiences.
and they just continue today.
Yeah.
That's the cool part. Wow. You know, when you were talking about the Bactrian camels, I love those guys. Not to bring that up. I wish they were still here. Man, I love those guys. I love those guys. From an interpretive perspective, there's so many things you could
We
share
had them
about
years
camels.
ago when I started.
Yeah.
Boris and Natasha. I still remember animals' names from way back then. Really cool pair of camels, and they bred, and we raised baby camels. And then I don't even know what year it was, but we had some space available, and they said, "What do you want?" And we all said, "Let's get a pair of camels," and you know, because we could breed them, and they're
And they
just
can be out all winter long too, which makes them
all
nice.
winter long, and it's freezing cold, and you walk out there, and they're very comfortable. They're built for the cold.
Yeah.
And it introduced us to wild camel something or other. It's a group of folks, conservation-minded folks in
It's Mongolia, right?
Mongolia,
Yeah,
thank you, Mark. And they work with the few
Very few.
wild Bactrian camels. They're pretty rare now, as with the P horse. The Przewalski or Przewalski horse come from some of the same areas. And I just fall in love with the animals that I work with. And it's true. I would go out there in the mornings for just some enrichment time. It's freezing cold, and Humphrey was out there waiting to be fed. And
Humphrey.
Shout out to Humphrey.
I
Shout
love it. Yeah, big shout out to Humphrey. I was such a fan.
it was a fun place to work down there. Not everybody liked it. It wasn't a great space, and that's why they repurposed it now. But
Yeah.
I kid with people. I have to get this in that Mark was volunteering in cat house, what I
Yep.
called cat house.
Yeah.
Night
Hunters.
hunters.
Night Hunters, yeah.
Night hunters. And I say we rescued Mark from night hunters. He came down and
Did you
worked.
work down there?
So I'd always, it's funny because I was a seasonal was my very first position here at the zoo and Wildlife Canyon with Paul. And before that,
really?
I had thought that I was a carnivore person. Like I always wanted to work carnivores. I was like, I know I want to work with cats. I got a job down in Wildlife Canyon and then was like, no, these camels are really special. I love the warthog, Artacan. Yeah, I fell in love with hoofstock down there. So opened my eyes up. Yeah.
And you know what's funny, Paul? I was a reptile kid. When I was a kid, I was totally a herper. Used to drive my parents crazy because they were Kentucky folks, and the only good reptile was a dead reptile. And I don't know how many I saved just by talking. Just like talking long enough for it to slither away and get away before my grandmother chopped it up with a hoe or something.
Yeah, I've
you know,
seen that happen.
and so it's funny that reptiles. People say all kids have a bug period.
Yeah.
And I skipped the bug period and went straight to reptiles.
Me too.
Loved them.
Yeah, they're a ton of fun for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
I feel like my back is against the wall there. I'm definitely a carnivore type of guy. My first lab, like animal lab, was Jungle Trail. So I used to make diets for bonobos, which is like all vegetables and fruits, right? Then I got the cat ambassadors, and they're like, "Do you want to make diets?" I'm like, "Yeah, for sure." So I'm looking for fruits and veggies. Here they come with a big can of Nebraska Premium and some rats, and I was like, "Okay,
What do I do with this
what do I
stuff?"
do with this, right? But I absolutely love
Funny.
it.
That is really funny. You learned
That's
a
awesome.
lot. Hey, the one thing that we haven't talked about that I want to make sure we do a little bit is that next fall is the 50th anniversary
Definitely.
of the Zoo Academy. Like 50 years that it's been here at the zoo, and it's the first of its kind, and it may be the longest partnership of Cincinnati Public Schools with any other entity in the city. It's been around longer than anything else. And there's been a lot of programs that have tried to mimic it and emulate it around the world and around the United States. But there's nothing quite the same as our program because of those labs. The labs where you're embedded. You have students embedded for 8 hours a week. And behind the scenes, working side by side with animal care staff, with educators, people in facilities and maintenance, sustainability, commissary, horticulture, all those, like the inner workings of the zoo, like making all that available to young minds.
It's a lot wider now. It used to just be animal
Yeah.
and horticulture, but I see kids in the maintenance department and sustainability, like that, and those are the people that'll really make a difference.
Yeah.
Sure.
There's even labs outside of the zoo, like off-site
Right.
labs.
Right, yeah. Like Civic Garden
Yeah,
Centers?
Civic Garden Center. I know there's
Did you do that?
Yeah, I did do Civic
That's
Garden
what I
Centers.
thought, yeah.
And then there's I think there's like a pet shelter one somewhere. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but there are a couple of.
Wow, I didn't realize there were any off-site. That's
yeah,
awesome.
At one time, I think there may have been a short period of time with the aquarium, the Newport Aquarium, but it was brief. And it was pre-COVID, and then it's not come back since. Yeah, it's interesting. That it has expanded beyond the zoo, but the zoo's its home.
Yeah.
Very
No,
cool.
thank you so much for bringing that up. I'm glad you gave a shout out to the 50th anniversary coming up.
Yeah.
Because that's such an incredible legacy. Like, it's incredible.
It's a third of the history of our zoo, because we're looking at our 150th
Yep.
anniversary next fall, same time period. I think that's September 18th
Yeah.
of 1875,
Yep. Yeah. So
something like that.
a year away now. Yeah. Just over a year, just under a year
Under
away.
a year, yeah. 'Cause, yeah. Yeah, yeah. So it sort of synced up with that. So there's a lot to.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to. 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 So there's a lot to There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to celebrate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All those young people. There is some talk of a class reunion, but I don't know what's happened with that.
I don't think much.
Okay.
Yeah, I meant to ask. I think you guys mentioned it before. Like, how many students are in each class? Like, what's the graduating size for your ZA class?
So, about 30 students in each grade. So maybe 60.
Maybe 60.
If-
Typically it's 50, but
yeah.
sometimes you'll start with 25 in each like incoming class, and they usually load it up a little bit, maybe put 29, 30 in, and then you lose some kids over time, right, between the first year and the next year. And so sometimes the senior class is a little bit smaller than the incoming junior class. But, so yeah, I mean, if you want to just do the simple math, 50 years, 50 students per, or sorry, 25 kids per graduating class. All right, somebody do the math.
I would say somebody get a calculator. This is beyond me. This is beyond me. 1,000 kids or so.
That's
maybe?
really sad. It's like I should be able to do this in my head. So we got 50 years times 25. Yeah, that's 1,250. You double that if it's
Yeah.
So that's what's the charm of it, because some would say, well, that's not a very big number. That's okay, because what we're doing is we're investing in people.
Yeah.
And we're putting the energy into a few people rather than trying to do too little for too many.
Definitely, I love that. And
Yeah.
Reese, you had even mentioned kind of like that intimate class setting was something that appealed to you, right?
Yeah, for sure, definitely. You get more one-on-one with teachers for one, and the teachers get more time to individually focus on what they're teaching, and they can adjust it to their students. Say if there's a class different from last year where these kids are more hands-on, so I need to focus on these kids and the way that they learn a little bit better, and I think the teachers are great at doing that.
Yeah, that's special for sure.
Yeah, and I think, more philosophically, I think that education is custom work. I don't think it's factory work, and sometimes we try to make it factory work and like push a lot of kids through the system, right? And all the educators I know resist that idea because they understand that everybody's different, and it takes understanding and recognizing that difference to really cater the educational experience to that young person. And just in listening to you guys, that's what happened with you all.
For sure.
And so it's really a gem in the city's educational crown, I think. It's like I said, there's nothing like it.
Definitely.
Nothing like it.
Yeah, and I mean, you as the director of education, I'd like to know your philosophies on education because I'm sure you've got a pretty good perspective on it. Yeah. So I enjoy hearing that.
Yeah, that one is for sure at the core of how I look at education. Is that it's best when one can take the time to get to know the learner and meet the needs of that learner. And now more than ever, with so many children today are being diagnosed as not neurotypical, they're neurodiverse. And that takes even more custom work to ensure that they succeed in this world, to give them a chance, right? Just give them a chance. I've got a lot of feelings.
I like
thoughts about that one.
That's a whole other podcast.
That's
That's
another thing. Yeah.
That's awesome. Something I wanted to ask Paul and Reese about. I've heard from some Zoo Academy students, and I wanted to get your input. One of the most valuable parts of being in the Zoo Academy was learning what you didn't want to do, just as much as it was to learn what worked for you. Yeah. Can you guys confirm, deny that, or speak to it a little bit?
Definitely truth. You learned a lot of things that you didn't like to do. I thought I would like working with primates a whole bunch, but it turns out that it's not that I didn't like it. It just wasn't my favorite thing.
Wasn't for you, yeah.
Yeah, it just wasn't for me. I don't think I had a lot of things where I figured out I didn't want to do that. I think everything was just stacking up like, oh yeah, I want to do this. But definitely figuring out what you don't like to do is just as important to figure out as what you do want to do. So yeah.
Paul, what about you? Did you have any experiences when you were in Zoo Academy that you were like, I'm glad I learned that. That's kind of not for me.
I really didn't. I don't think I delved that far into my inner being or whatever. I know that I don't like to clean glass. And sometimes in a zoo, that's part of it. I didn't even realize, it's kind of a behind story that they switched me. They took away my department, they being the way the zoo goes. And I was going to come over to Africa and would probably be working with Mark, but I didn't. I changed at the last minute, went to Children's Zoo so I could keep my red pandas, and worked out to be good. But realized after the fact that I'd have been cleaning a lot of glass out there.
Yeah, we cleaned the hippo windows, the painted dog windows, lions.
That is
yeah.
so much
All in a day's
All
work,
of
you
it.
know.
Exactly. But beyond that, no, I didn't. I kind of take life as it comes and hope that it takes me.
Yeah, I feel like that's the most Paul saying I've ever heard. Take
Yeah,
life
yeah.
as it comes.
That's like,
Hope it
that,
takes-
well, we're in the presence of Buddha. Man. It's like, that was
That's
awesome.
a song. I'm very into music.
Oh, is it? Oh,
Classic
okay.
rock. And
Nice.
I know there's a song out there that I just stole that from.
It's like, I think we're in the movie Spinal Tap right now. Is that one of your faves?
No.
No.
I don't think I've ever seen
You've
it.
never seen Spinal Tap?
I don't think
okay.
so.
All right.
It's a classic.
It is a
I can't
classic.
believe you haven't seen it.
We should have
Really?
a zoo viewing of Spinal Tap up in the Ed Center in the
Oh,
theater.
that'd be perfect.
Show
Willie
big
and-
screen.
Willie and Family is more my
Okay.
type, and Beatles and
Okay. Nice.
Willie Nelson for you youngsters.
I will say I'm not familiar, but I know Willie Nelson. Okay.
Willie and Family.
Thanks for explaining.
I do not know Willie Nelson.
So maybe we'll listen to it on the drive out to Boyer. We're heading out to
There you
Boyer.
go.
actually.
You are?
Yeah.
I worked out there for a lot of years too.
Did you? Fun.
Yeah. Before there were even animals out there, they drugged me out there to chop
Browse.
honeysuckle.
Oh,
no, just clearing a path
Clearing it
to
out.
the back.
Okay. Fun.
There were no animals. Cheetah facility wasn't there, but you couldn't get back there in the vehicle, so
Nice.
we had to
Nice.
cut a road back there.
Man, that's tough.
That's special.
Yeah.
So you guys expanded a lot about a lot of the great benefits that Zoo Academy offers, kind of what it means to our zoo and what our zoo means to it. Kind of that relationship is so special. Is there anything about Zoo Academy we didn't touch on that you wanted to make sure to chat about, or like even a specific memory or a lab or anything like that? Anything I'm missing?
I would just say it's an important opportunity, you know. It teaches a lot of job readiness. You have to learn how to work with a lot of people from different backgrounds. And it's kind of like a job. I mean, that's how the teachers kind of hold it. They want you to be there on time. They want you to communicate when you're going to be late or if you're not going to show up. So it's just, you know, getting you prepared. And it's also just, like I said, an opportunity to get your foot into the conservation world or animal world or whatever you want to do. There's so many different avenues you can take while using Zoo Academy. It's just one big opportunity, and I appreciate it, though.
Crew department needs a shout out too, because they take students
They
down
do.
there and
They do, they
research
do.
and
Thank you.
work that Dr. Terry Roth has done. And I don't know how many students go down there. Do they still? It's a lab still. I'll say this, that when I was a youngster, there were people here that helped me out and they treated me well. A lot of times, maybe growing up, maybe I have a different look on it, but I wasn't happy, I know that. And some of the old timers, Rick Heighthouse, Johnny Arnett, Steve Romo.
I was going to say
worked
Rome.
for,
Is that who you work for in the Bell?
Yeah. George Fingerhut, all those
yeah.
old timers took really good care of me, and they taught me things, and they just treated me like a human being. Maybe like an adult even before I was an adult. So I try to go back and do that a little bit now too. If somebody has an interest or somebody's hanging around, I introduce myself and I try to give them that pat on the back or encouraging words that might help them the way that Rick and Herb and everybody kind of took care of me. So I'm trying to pay it back just a little.
Yeah, zoo people are good people.
Yeah,
I mean,
for
I think
sure.
you can say that pretty universally. Zoo people are good people. It's
For sure.
it's an amazing community here. I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen it over the years as well. That it's a very welcoming place. There's some pranksters out there, and I'm sure you had some experiences. But that's part of the fun.
I've had some, and I
Yeah.
like scaring people now
Oh
too.
no! No hazing. You can't haze them. No hazing of the kids.
hazing. The one place you couldn't was in the bear line. We worked on
No
and
jokes.
off
Yeah.
in the old bear line,
Yeah.
and that was one thing, you did not sneak up behind somebody in the bear line.
Yeah, you know, I think
That's fair rule. Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think the thing I'd want everyone to know is that there are many people that their careers have started in the Zoo Academy. Their zoo careers have started in the Zoo Academy, and for a long time it was a direct pipeline into the zoo profession. And then as the zoo profession became more professional and college degrees were required, that closed the door on that opportunity, because then a student would have to go to college, come back, and maybe get a job here at the zoo. Maybe. It seems like the door is cracking open a little bit on that front to create a pathway for young people to step into the zoo profession from high school. And I don't know where that's going now for sure at this point in time, but it feels like that might be happening on some level, at least being discussed or considered. I think it's not a matter of one or the other. I think there's an opportunity for both, and that that creates a diversity of experience and attitudes in the workplace that I think is really, really healthy and good. And we'll see where that goes, but it's remarkable. If you did, I run into people all the time that say, whether I went to the Zoo Academy or I was a junior zoologist here at the zoo or I was a ZOT, a zoologist of tomorrow, these are all programs that existed back in the past. They're doing amazing things, in the zoo world and in the conservation world, and that many people got their start here at the zoo. Not necessarily in the Zoo Academy,
right,
but just at the zoo in general. So the zoo itself intrinsically is this, I'm going to see it through the lens of education, but it is intrinsically an educational place and an opportunity place. It provides so many opportunities to grow. And I can, anyway, I could go on. I could expound on that for a while, mainly because I do have a college degree. I have a few, but the point is that I feel like I learned more here when I started working here about wildlife and conservation and education. Like I all the theoretical stuff, right? But then I learned how it really worked here, and that was amazing to me. My education didn't end at college; it began when I started here at the zoo.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah,
I've
it is.
heard that, especially horticulture. They say, I learned more in my first 3 months here than I did in all of going to school.
Yeah.
Because it's hands-on.
And it's not the...
A shout-out needs to go out to Ed Maruska, too, because he had the vision for putting that school in a zoo. And
Yes.
a lot of people disparage Ed, but he was very good to me. And he was a visionary on many fronts.
He was a tough one, but he was good to me too. And
he was good to me. If you did your job and you loved the zoo and it shines through, he was very good.
Yeah, I should say this. I'm glad you brought that up, because Ed does always should get a shout out, because he was from a different time, but he laid the groundwork for where we are today. The fact that we have a horticulture department, and bringing Dave Erlinger in to shape this zoo in those days and to soften this concrete zoo that it was before when Ed started, it set the stage for what we became. We all stand on the shoulders of giants in a variety of different settings and ways, but that's important to recognize. The other thing I would say, and that is that, because you had asked us, like, at the beginning of this whole thing, Mark, you had said, what's the takeaway? And I would say this about the Zoo Academy. The Zoo Academy started in 1975, and it didn't even have a place to meet here at the zoo. Didn't have a classroom, didn't have like a dedicated space. They met on the loading dock of the commissary.
No way.
And they would start their day there, and then go out into the zoo and do their lab work, which was more significant in those days. There was more time, I think, in labs, if I'm not mistaken. And then they'd come back someplace to do the classroom work. It could be in a classroom in education or some space elsewhere in the zoo. So the program began before there was a space for it. And that's because someone said, I believe in this idea. I'm going to take a risk and try this, and we're going to have permission to fail or succeed on this one. And look what it is 50 years later.
Yep.
And many lives changed.
It's a lot of minutia, but that commissary you're talking about was right here. Down at the end of the hallway right here was the original. I don't know about original, but
when you came, it was
right.
Commissary.
They had just built the primate center and a new commissary over back at the zoo.
That's special. I love hearing all the changes the zoo's ever gone under the years. It's incredible. But I love kind of leaving on that positive note with the Zoo Academy. You know, like you said, it was the launch pad for so many people to get into the conservation field, the zoo field, biologists, scientists, all that kind of stuff. It's really a special place. And just like Reese said as well, even if you don't end up going into a biology-related field at all, it teaches you skills that you're going to need to be a quote-unquote adult, so to speak, or, you know, working in any field you're in, you know, showing up on time, talking to your bosses, creating relationships. Like, it's all valuable stuff, and it all starts right at the Zoo Academy. For 15, 16, 17-year-olds, I see the Zoo Academy students, and I'm like, they're way more mature than I was when I was 15 and 16-year-old, because I could not have done that when I was that young. They're always impressed me.
Yeah, they take great risks. You know, they leave their high school, right, and they come here and spend their whole day here, and they're brave. They're brave to do it. It takes courage, and it takes like a belief in a possibility that they're uncertain of. They don't know how this is going to go, and they're leaving all those things that are important to high school kids: their friends and the community and the familiarity of their high school they've been going to for 2 years.
Yeah, what was that like for you, Reese? Like,
Ooh, definitely. I was definitely a little scared of leaving my high school, you know.
Yeah, I would be too, yeah.
I went to Hughes for 4 years before coming here. I had so many strong relationships and things. And some of those relationships did fizzle out when I got here, but honestly, it was worth it. I mean, I have so many strong relationships here at the zoo now, whether that's with mentors or people my age, or just making genuine friends with some of the keepers and people who are here. And I wouldn't trade it out for a thing, you know.
That's special. So today, for our, you know, our big "What Can I Do?" our take-home message to all you listeners out there, Dan, you summarized it best.
Take risks.
Take a risk.
And give yourself permission to fail or succeed. Both are important. You know, I guess I should say succeed or fail, but you learn from both. You learn from both, and so you can apply that to any part of your life. Any part of your life, but you got to take risks, and you got to walk through the door when the door opens. Sometimes you don't even know like where it's leading, but sometimes you just gotta jump through that doorway and do it. Like when Gary Densler called me, said he want that job.
When Dan Marsh came down and
said, yes. Now maybe he regrets that. I don't know. But that's funny. Yeah. Just gotta do it.
No, I love that as our "What Can I Do?" for today, our take-home message. Just take a risk. Like, I think we probably all have that moment in our careers, right? I thought I was a carnivore keeper, and then Paul said, "You want a job down here?" And I was like, well, I guess. Like, work with Paul? I don't know about that.
How long ago was that?
That was 2016.
That's cool.
2016, yeah. Okay. Yeah, so
8 years?
had I not taken that risk, you know, I don't know where I'd be today. I wouldn't be in this position I am now, so
I would have
thankful I did.
I would have been a fisheries biologist studying freshwater mussels. Had my head underwater my whole career, probably. Doesn't sound bad, but
not the same.
Not the same.
Yeah.
And maybe not even that. Who knows what I would have done.
Some people get the opportunity to travel too, and that's a big educational aspect of a person's life if you're able to travel and go to places that you're not familiar with. Africa calls me every day. I've been there twice, but not in a long
Does it show up on your phone ID? Africa calling.
This is a alarm every morning.
Metaphorically.
Metaphorically.
Okay, sorry, I'm just giving you trouble.
I just love Africa and the animals that are there, and it's expanded to being able to go to Sumatra and work with animals there. Traveling is a real eye-opener, and it'll do you good. Anytime you get the chance, walk through that door or take a jump on that plane or whatever.
That's the goal. Thank you for that. I'll take that with me.
Yeah, expand. Yeah. There's a whole world out there, man.
That's right.
That's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah.
That's right. Well, guys, this has been incredible. Thank you all so much for coming in and not just teaching me, but teaching all our listeners at home a little bit about Zoo Academy, talking about
people listen to this?
Fingers crossed. Hopefully they are. Hopefully.
You're going to play this?
They do.
This is going to be posted somewhere? Oh, I didn't. Yikes. We're in trouble.
We thought we were just chatting around the table. But no, seriously, Reese, Dan, Paul,
Thank
thank you all once again. It's been fantastic having you here today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us. And to all you listeners at home, thanks for joining us for another episode of Cincinnati Zoo Tales. Hopefully you enjoyed listening to some of these stories. It's always the best time. So until next time, everyone at home, take care.